In this short video, I am going to basically introduce us to our data set that we have actually collected. How we do this is I'm going to go ahead and I've opened PSPP and I'm going to click open. What you need to do is you need to find the file that we have created. I uploaded it for you, but you need to save it to your hard drive. It will not open directly into PSPP, so make sure that you actually do locate it and find it. I'm going through my own hard drive right now and finding it. It's in Winter 2011 folder and data. It is called Police Civilian Study 2011 Recoded. This is because I've already done any recoding that's necessary so that we actually have a data set. Now you're going to notice that you're going to get the output page. It's going to let you know that it has done it. If you come back down here and click on the original file, it will actually upload it and it'll show you it with it. Now, a couple things that I want you to be aware of when you're looking at PSPP is, one, this is what we call the data view, and it looks like a giant spreadsheet. There's also what's called the variable view, and the variable view kind of lets you see more about what's going on with the variables. One thing that I have done is, like at the beginning, like see where it says RWA, I went ahead and let you know what that refers to. In that case, it's the right-wing authoritarianism scale. So if I scroll down a little bit, I'll get to the second one. Like this one, it says estimates over here, and that's the name of the thing, but it actually refers to the crime estimate scale items. And you can scroll through the whole thing and see how I've actually done that. Like here's another one, CA1, which stands for communication apprehension scale items. So let's go back to the data view, because here's some things that I want you to be aware of. In our data set, to begin with, we have all of the individual columns of data. And these, of course, relate to all the different items on the questionnaire that we handed out to everyone. So each different question that we had on there actually has its own unique column. Now, a couple things to realize is, one, you're going to notice really fast that the crime estimates numbers have changed drastically. Because remember, these are the ones that we entered as a 3-item percentile, like 100, 200, 0. They're now going to be a series of zeros and ones and -2s and everything else. The reason why they look like this now is one of the things that this scale calls for is to take all of the different items. Remember the first, I think 15 items all were 0 to 100, and then the last 3 were 0 to 999. Because those last 3 are a different numerical system, we had to use a process called a z-score, which allows us to take the first 15 items, which were 1 to 100, and the last 3, which were 1 to 1,000, and basically equalize the score so they could actually all work together. And that's what a z-score basically does. And that's why it doesn't look like it did when we originally did it, but it actually does make it so we can actually now play with it all as a summed total. And so here again we have communication apprehension. It goes all the way through all the individual items on all the different things until we get to the very, very end. When we get to the very end, there's going to be a couple things that I want you to notice. It's going to stop. You're going to have like, oops, I went too far. Like this last one here, this column was the predicted outcome value, number 7. And then we have member. Of course, as you can see there, it pops up, are you a member of any branch of law enforcement? Then, of course, the second one is a close friend, a family member, a member of any branch of law enforcement? And, of course, how long ago was your most recent interaction with a member of law enforcement? Biological sex and age. And so what you're going to notice is that those columns are labeled, and, of course, these numbers correspond with the ones that were on the sheet. Then what you have here is what I call the summed totals. Now, remember, when you're dealing with interval level variable, the individual items function as ordinal data. So that's just one item. If it's just one, to strongly agree, to strongly disagree, that is just a single ordinal variable. When you have groups of those, though, that are all designed to measure a concept, that is when they become interval level variables. And so what you have to do to get them to be interval variables is you actually have to calculate them together. So you take all the individual scores and you add them together, like we see here in right-wing authoritarianism. And this number right here, 75, it's the first person's score. And what we basically see here is that you took all the individual scores for all 30 items and you add them all together, and that is what gives us what we call a composite score. And so for each different individual on each of the major variables, we end up with composite scores. And these composite scores are the ones that we actually use in statistics. We do not use the individual items other than to help us get either your alpha reliability or your composite scores. So make sure that when you start running statistics that you are using the composite scores, which are located at the end of the variable set, and not the individual items, which are all towards the beginning of the data set. And so we can go through and look at this. We had, the right-wing authoritarianism, crime estimates, police communication apprehension. That stands for police officer accommodation, police officer trust, voluntary compliance with the police, public perceptions of police. Then we have the distributed justice, procedural justice, decision-making fairness, quality of treatment, interactional justice, and last but not least, we have predicted outcome value. And again, these ones here towards the end of your database are the ones that we are actually using for statistical purposes. So when you start going through, you want to make sure that those are the ones that you are looking at. Let's see how it looks whenever you actually are using it. I'm going to go to Analyze. I'm going to go to Descriptive Statistics just so we can see one. I'm going to go to Frequencies. Now, when you look at it in this terms, anytime, no matter which one you're pulling up, you're going to see that you have the left-hand box here that has all the individual items and variables all listed in here. So at the beginning part, again, you have the items. That's why I went ahead and put in that term items so that you could clearly see that those are the ones that refer to the items. And again, for our purposes, we're not interested in the items anymore. We're now interested in the composite scores, which all of those are towards the bottom. For example, we have here family, how long, biological sex, right-wing authoritarianism, crime estimates, and so on. So you just want to make sure that when you're doing this that you go to the bottom to find this stuff. So let's go ahead and just run a simple one. I'm going to do, we'll do predicted outcome value. So I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to click on the arrow. You can also double-click it once you've had it highlighted, but I like to use the little arrow. It makes it easier. Now, in the box below that, it's going to go ahead and show you all the different tests that it's already currently running. And it's just quite a few different possible tests that it automatically has built in. You can just check the ones that you want. We're just going to go with mean, standard deviation, minimum, and maximum, because those tend to be the ones that we actually use, especially in the methods section when we have to talk about our instrumentation. Now, down here you have charts. Really, you don't need charts for the most part. There is frequency table. A frequency table, basically what it does is it gives you a table for every score possible. I'm going to show you what that looks like in a second, but I do want you to know that you can actually turn it off, because if you click on it and then you go always or never, you can get rid of some things, and I'll explain why you want to do that in just a second. But I'm going to go ahead and run it just so you can see what one looks like. So I'm going to come over here to the output page. Now, towards the bottom, you're going to see over here is we have our let me maximize this real fast. You have your mean and your standard deviation that has actually been conducted. It also shows you how many, which was 159 that was ran, and then there was 7 that didn't have, or because of missing data. The mean was 31.56, the standard deviation was 7.74, the minimum score looked like it was 18, and the maximum score was 49. Now, that is the information that you'll actually need when you're running your method section, so that you can actually give us the alpha reliability and the mean and standard deviation. That just gives you the mean and the standard deviation. Now, this is what we call a frequency table. I'm going to go ahead and kind of show you that sucker right there. What a frequency table does is it shows us literally every time someone scored a score. So one person scored, looks like a 13, one a 14, one a 15. It goes down. You have 17 people who scored an 18. Again, that's very useful if you're looking for frequencies, like how many males or how many females there were in a sample. But if you're looking for, interval data, knowing that there was 17 people that scored a 28 may not necessarily be the most useful information. And so that's why we oftentimes, when we're running it with interval data, we go ahead and just turn off the frequency table, because it's not something that we actually need. So this is your data set. Overall, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom so you can actually see here. We ended up with 166 participants, which actually puts us a little lower than I would like to, which is always around 200 is what you try to shoot for. But we are in the same ballpark as most other studies that are done in this area. So I think we actually have a really interesting, robust sample. And I look forward to seeing what kinds of fun things that we find out about this in the near future. Bye.